Christmas is a great time for stories, and we're on the brink of Christmas, the Christmas season anyway. And there's a story that has always touched me greatly. It's written by a great American author. It's decades old now, so you kind of have to update as you go along. But I want you to tell me as soon as you recognize the story, either the author or the name of the story. And I think you may have heard it. So dig into your memory as I begin to talk about it. The story is about, of course, Christmas Eve. And the characters in the story are a young couple named Jim and Della. Anybody? No, not yet. Well, Jim and Della had some adverse circumstances in their lives. They, were living in a tough time, and Jim's job that once paid him $30 a week, his salary was reduced to $20 a week. They lived in a flat that was an $8 flat, furnished. And Della scrimped and saved and got the best bargain she could at the grocery store. And every time she could, she put 1 or 2 pennies aside to save because she loved Jim and she wanted to give him a Christmas gift. So you know, well, the story is being recognized. We just haven't got to the name yet. Okay, we'll get there. So Jim equally loved Della, his wife. And both of them were expecting a great time at Christmas, even in the difficult circumstances, with the exception of money to buy gifts. And both wanted to buy a wonderful gift, but they held on to that expectation, and I'm going to tell you the rest of the story later. But I'll tell you what the story was. The story is by O. Henry, The Gift of the Magi. So it's a wonderful story, and we'll get to the end of it because it fits more at the end of this. So parenthetical, we'll go to an actual message here. So we are talking about Advent and hope. You'll notice the lit candle, hope, in our Advent wreath. And hope is all about expectancy, very positive expectancy. And I want to talk about hope today. And I base it on a reading of a Christian scripture that I like a whole lot, and I've paraphrased it a little bit. Comes from the book of Romans chapter 5. Knowing that adverse circumstances produce endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not disappoint us. Did you note those 3 things? Endurance, character, and hope. And that's what we're going to speak about today. When we live in hope, we become expectant beings. Yesterday at Saturday Soul Boost, Joyous Rainbow from Colorado was with us, and a few minutes after we got done, she emailed me a quote, which I had not remembered, and it's just so appropriate, from the poet Emily Dickinson. Just a couple of lines. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without words and never stops at all. Beautiful lines from Emily Dickinson. But let's get to the first of those 3 things. Endurance. Endurance brings to mind, for me, the unity power that we call strength. Strength, endurance, perseverance, the ability to persist in all things. So let's unpack this power of strength, this endurance capability that we have. These are our gifts to us. These are part of our legacy. They're integral to us. We're created with this and at least the seed of it right inside of us, and we can work to see that seed flourish and grow. First thing about endurance is don't focus on it. When the adversity, that is, focus on the endurance, yes, but don't focus on the adversity. We all know that whatever we focus on, we tend to draw toward us. So when we look at tough times, think about endurance. Think about hope. Train your mind to switch when it wants to go the other way and come back to the truth that you know. That hope and living in hope will bring us all that we desire, even though we don't see it right in front of ourselves. Hope is also an antidote to fear, and it's shown in endurance. When you are able to endure a challenging situation, you grow out of a fearful milieu into one that has hope, that sees to the future. You grow out of looking at the past and all the horrible things that happened there, and you begin to look forward and look upward to hope. Because you remember that all things work together for good. Whatever the circumstances that you're enduring, it's all working together for good. It may take you a while to see that. Might not even happen in this lifetime. But we do know with eyes of faith that everything works together for good. Endurance sees beyond the appearances that are there. Oh, this is one of the key things with our metaphysical understanding, that what we see in front of us is not reality. But the reality that we are created to live out is something that we look beyond the difficult circumstance to see. And I'm sure you've taken opportunity to use your inquisitiveness and your curiousness and your imagination to see that from time to time. If we're on the pathway to living out hope, we have to be able to see beyond the difficulty. And also to affirm that love that we are, love that is being given to us continually, brings miracles in our lives. I think sometimes we don't experience those miracles because we can't affirm enough the love that is there, and affirm that using that power of strength to endure whatever situation is with us at the moment, that allows us to pave the way to seeing of miracles. Miracles, according to the Course in Miracles, are a shift in perception. We look differently. We look beyond. We look up. Endurance. Endurance produces character. Something we don't talk about very much. Character. But if we allow adversity to do so, it will produce in us character. The character will be one that knows that there is nothing to fear. All of our fears are transcended by the hope that leads eventually to the expression of love in our lives. So, when you think of character, that should be part of our spiritual practice. What we're developing, the character to get to that place where we experience miracles as a very natural part of our being. Character does not focus on foibles and faults and flaws. It focuses on the possibilities that we have to become that divine expression extraordinaire. No flaws. Having or working on developing our character also allows us to tap into the wisdom that is innate within us. Again, expressions of the divine, children of God, within us is also that power of wisdom, the power to perceive accurately, to evaluate. Tapping into wisdom is one of the things that developing character. Another thing about character is that character makes choices. Ever been in a situation where you just didn't want to choose? You wanted to bail out and run. Well, character, as it's being developed, produced by the adversity, will allow us to make choices. And not only just choices, but choices that are positive. Choices that let us continue on the path, the spiritual path that we're on. Choices perhaps to avoid bad company or unhelpful company or company that just doesn't serve us. Oh, so difficult that is. To set boundaries sometimes. To say, I'm going to limit the time I spend with somebody or limit the time I put myself in a certain situation because I'm on the path of developing character. And so I can choose. And I can choose that which is good, and I can kind of push aside that which doesn't serve me well, which doesn't get me going where I really want to go. Yes, character, when produced by adversity, engenders hope, and hope is the next thing. It emerges, of course, from those diverse adverse circumstances. And it's the process, this hope. I don't know if anybody remembers, we talked about the faith scale in the past. And we began on the lower end of that scale, and we talked about despair and doubt. And then eventually we got to the place of hope. Hope allows us to move from that despair, that doubt that drags us down, and to move further up to trust, to faith, to belief, and even to divine knowing. Hope is so key because it's so human, but it's pointed to the divine. It's so very human, but pointed toward the divine. So we get on that faith track when we make the most out of hope in our lives. Miracles become expected. They're natural. They're a part of the reality of things as it is in our creation and our sustenance here in this life. Miracles are also a kind of exchange. And this points us toward something about hope. The exchange brings forth the love. We talk about exchange when we talk about giving and receiving, but that's demonstrated in many, many ways. So we get engaged in the exchange, the human-divine exchange. That's hope, and that's what brings us what we truly desire. The Christmas story, not the O. Henry Christmas story, but the traditional Christmas story, in that the nation the Jewish people were waiting for the hope that would deliver them from Roman dominance. And so the Messiah, which we identify as Jesus, arrived to bring that hope into reality. So there you go. Remember, endurance in adversity produces character. Don't miss that step. And character produces hope, and hope doesn't disappoint. Hope, when pointed in the right direction, never, never, never disappoints. So now we get to how do I do that? How do I get on this track going from endurance to character to hope? First thing, look beyond the circumstances. When something terrible is seeming to be right there, can you pause and look beyond? Look at the possibilities. Imagine how that unreal circumstances in your life may be different. It may be something that's really contributing to your good. I like the focus on hope, that positive, pointed to the divine hope. And I love a poem. Today is a poem day. I love the poem that Maya Angelou wrote, and I have reshuffled it a little bit so it kind of fits where we're at. Anybody remember the poem? It's also turned out to be a book, Caged Bird. I see some heads nodding. So here's what Maya Angelou writes. Begins with the caged bird. A caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for still. A free bird, that's the one that's got hope. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends and dips his wing in the orange sun rays and dares to claim the sky. The free bird thinks of another breeze and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. Hope. Turning from that which brings us down to that which raises us up. So, that first point, look beyond the situation. Secondly, affirm hope. We talk about affirmation all the time. Affirm hope, affirm hope, affirm hope. And then begin to move up that scale to trust and faith and beyond. Get put those Post-it notes out, write those affirmations as they come to you. Put them up there. But I'm going to help you do that a little bit more. Tom, would you put up the slide? And Pam, would you hand out that little gift that we have? No, I mean Debbie, I'm sorry. I'm looking right through. I'm looking beyond Debbie into Pam. Pam's looking around and saying, what? So here it is. I have made kitchen magnets for you. Expect the best. Being an expectant being. We have a choice. Expect the very best. When you find yourself expecting something otherwise, shut that down. Turn away from it and expect the very best. Now put this on your refrigerator, and it'll help. This will help you remind you. This is a very, very short affirmation. But as we met together on Saturday Soul Boost yesterday, Pam, you were there. No, Pam, you weren't there. You wanted to be there, but you couldn't be, he said. But I know that some of you were. And those, when they were feeding back to me, said, you know, hope isn't anything unless you do something, isn't any good unless you do something with it. Hope isn't hope unless you begin to move your feet. So how do I do that? Begin to move your feet. I think the book of James talks about faith, and hope is kind of a lower level of faith. Faith without works is dead. Well, hope without moving your feet is not going to get you very far. You know exactly how you are to be moving your feet. You have the knowledge within you. This is mine to do. Access that in the quiet. And begin to move your feet. I have another quote here because I like it. It's true not only for you as an individual, but it's true for us as a community, as a nation, as a global society. The quote is by Barack Obama. And he says, "We choose hope over fear. We see the future not as something out of our control, but as something we can shape for the better through concerted and collective effort." Yes, get the feeling of hope. Yes, make the affirmation of hope, but start to move your feet. Perhaps in concert, and again, you're going to get directed. If you're tuned into that divine wisdom, you're going to get directed where to put that. Endurance, character, hope. So back to our story, the gift of the Magi. Well, Della had a $1.87 that she'd saved and scrimped and saved, but that wasn't much to buy a gift for the man she loved. Neither did Jim have a lot to spend on a gift. The best they had, their meager surroundings and a sparse apartment and all of that, was a couple of prized possessions, and each of them had one. Jim had a watch, a beautiful pocket watch, that was owned by his father before him and his grandfather before his father. It was just something that he prized, his prized possession. And Della had hair, beautiful hair. None like it. So on that Christmas Eve, before they joined together when Jim came home from work, Della went out during the day and went to a specialist who took human hair and used it perhaps to make other wigs. And she asked the proprietor, "How much for my hair? I want to sell my hair." Thinking, well, maybe Jim won't like me when I don't have my hair, but she wanted so much to give that gift. She was expecting a real celebration around Christmas despite their meager circumstance. $20, said the proprietor. And she said, cut it off. And she took the $20. She went shopping. That beautiful watch that Jim, her husband, had was held together by a worn leather strap held into his pocket. And she found a watch fob chain that was exquisite for $21. $1 from her savings and 20 from the hair that she had sold. Now, on the other side of the thing, Jim went to look for a present. And he found for his wife, knowing how she prized her hair, a beautiful comb set made of tortoise shell, bejeweled. It was exquisite again. Well, you can tell where this story is going if you didn't know it. They got home, and a little fearful Della said, "It'll grow again, Jim, it'll grow again." And she gave him this beautiful present of the watch fob chain. He was a little somber about it, but then he pulled out his package and handed it to her. And of course it was that comb set made of tortoise shell with jewels. He had sold his watch so that he could give her a gift. It's kind of could be a sad ending to the story, but O. Henry puts it this way. I think, if I'm guessing, Jim and Della had some wonderful celebration that they never would have had if they didn't allow themselves to be bold, to be risky with regard to their giving to each other. O. Henry says, of all who give gifts, these are the wisest. Those who live in hope and expectancy, these are the wisest. Endurance, character, hope. This is a track to living out hope, to knowing the wisdom that is within you. And so it is.